Alright, so before we get started on this second step on this tutorial, the one thing I want to explain, let you guys know, the Mache paste I'm using is basically, it's just water and wood glue. I use Titebond 2. Now, the reason I use Titebond 2 wood glue is because it is water resistant, and that just helps every stage of this in our Mache making to keep this thing as water resistant as possible, so it'll hold up to weather that it gets. What you want, what you want. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of how to build a groundbreaker. By now, you guys should have your armature built and ready to go. So in this step of the process, we're going to do our base skin of the groundbreaker itself, and then we're going to come back and do all of our final detail skinning and getting this thing all set up and making them all gory and ready to go and have them all set up for paint. What we're going to need to finish off this step, one of them is going to be the hot glue gun that I talked about in step 1. We're going to need our skull that we talked about in step 1. We're going to need cotton balls. Very, very important. This is one of my favorite things to use when I skin and add detail to a groundbreaker. It really creates a nice rotted flesh look. I really enjoy it, and they're cheap. I mean, you buy a bag of these at Walmart for $2 or $3, and they go a long, long ways. And then also, we're going to need some paper towels. These are just a cheap brand that I picked up at the dollar store here in town. You can use a Viva. They don't have any print on them. Like this has got a little print on it. The Viva white paper towels have no print. The paper towel that I love to use the best, that I just don't have at this point in time for the tutorial, is a blue shop paper towel. You can get it at Walmart. Pick it up in the automotive section. It's straight blue. It's thicker. It has absolutely no texture to it, no print in it at all, and it's really strong. It soaks up quite a bit of Mache paste, and when it dries, it's very, very strong. And that's my favorite to use. So really, any paper towel will work. That's just the one I prefer to do. So before we get going in this, one thing that I did not show you guys in the first step, the neck up here. I wanted the head as well to kind of be at an odd angle looking up, so I went ahead and heated the neck right here, and I bent this back so that I could position this head at an odd angle. I want to let you guys know that. I forgot to tell you that in the first one, so by all means grab your heat gun, heat it up, and get it tilted. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, if you remember from the first step, my arms are a little bit short, weren't coming down to the board good, so I'm going to do a little pre-drilling, and I'm going to secure the bottoms of these arms down to this board so that they don't move. So we'll get that done right now. So the next thing I want to do is bulk up the shoulders a little bit, give basically the end of a bone piece structure to it. So we're just going to wad up some newspaper and add some girth right here to the tops of the shoulders. Now there's nothing fancy going on here. We're just balling up a little newspaper, putting it on the top of the shoulder, creating a ball, that little joint socket right there. That way when we skin this, it gives the illusion of a top of a shoulder bone. Alright, so we got a couple shoulders here in place. They look decent. It's going to get the job done. You're going to realize what it is. The next thing we're going to do is prep the skull or prep the head. Now, if you've got a foam skull you're using, it's really not going to be much prep for you to do it unless you want to cut the jaw open, and you can remove the jaw, cut it open, and put it back, glue it back together and have an open state. If you're not going to do that, you're just going to need to, drill a hole in your skull and get it so where it plumbs over and fits over your pipe. Now for the project that I'm working on, I'm going with one of my blank skulls, and I do these separately. The jaw is separate from the skull itself, so I have the option to have, mouth open, mouth closed, hanging from the side, whatever. This particular one, I believe I'm just going to keep it basically closed like this, and I'm actually not even going to worry about teeth on this one. We're just going to skin over it and just give it a look like everything's kind of smoothed out. So we're just going to glue this in place real quick. We'll get this jaw set and we'll attach it to the armature. Alright, so we got our jaw all glued into place, ready to go. I'm going to run a little hot glue around the end of the PVC there, and then bring this down and glue them into place. Now we got a little glue on here to secure this a little more. We're going to run a little bit of hot glue right inside here in this opening to the PVC pipe itself, just to tack it in place, and then we're going to come in here with Mache and Mache the skull to the neck bone itself. But this glue will help hold it in place until we get that Mache work done. So now we got our skull in place, and we got everything set up. Just as a precaution, we're going to run a little bit of hot glue on all these ones where we've kind of got this hinge where it can move. Since we got all of our ribs set in place where we like them, I'm going to put a little hot glue in here just to tack them into place, just to prevent them from trying to move on us while we skin this thing. So the first thing we're going to do is lay a base skin down on this, and this is what we're going to use our paper towels for. The base skin's really just going to wrap and coat everything. We'll do a couple, 3 or 4 layers over the top of these little balls down the shoulder. That way they get nice and strong. And then everything else is basically just going to lay over it lightly and hold into place, just to give us this outline of the ribs that are into it as well. Also, we'll take some smaller pieces and we're going to put them in here. I'm going to put them in on these joints right here on the bottom of the jaw where I attach it to the head. I don't trust hot glue. Hot glue has a tendency to want to pop off in weather, so we're going to secure these 2 pieces together with a Mache. Just another quick note to prep your paper towel before you get ready. All these factory edges, you're going to want to tear these off. But one thing I want to note, if you've watched any of my tutorials in the past, you know that most of the armatures, when I do my Mache work, I put my hands in the paste and put the paste on the armature first and then add the dry paper to it, which is something I learned from Dan Reeder, which works absolutely well, and that's normally what I do all the time. However, on a structure like this, it's a little bit different. So this is when it pays to dip first and then apply it on, because we're going to be lightly laying this on, and we want our paper towels to be wet so they fall in and kind of confine to what we got going on. On these smaller parts here, I use some smaller strips of paper towel, which is really what you want to get wrapped around. Now when we go to start laying over all this area, I'll be using bigger pieces of paper towel. Now another thing that I'll do here that helps this conform to the rib area is I'm going to lay this thing on its back and then lay these down so that all the paper towel has a tendency to want to just sink in. Now, a couple things here before we flip this over and work on the sides and work on the back to skin this. It's really wet, you know, it wants to slide around a lot. Mache doesn't like to grip that plastic all that well, but it will work. You just need to have some patience. I've done it many times. Now, one thing, if you are impatient, at this point in time, if you've got a heat gun, we should have a heat gun. We're building this thing. You can take your heat gun and lightly hold it way back up like this and use that heat gun, and you can dry out this structure much faster, so you can get this where you can turn it over. It becomes a little more rigid. You can set on its side, add some more to it, and you can heat gun that down some more. I'm going to do the same and then flip it over and do the back as well. So if you have a heat gun and you're very careful with it, you can go ahead and on these areas like this, you can get this to dry out much quicker, so you can move on to the sides and to the back. Alright, so the front side now is drying out to flip over. We're going to roll this over and skin the back the same way we did the front. And we'll let that dry up a little bit, and then we'll skin the sides. Now on the bottom side back here, I'm rolling the extra paper towel all the way underneath and pressing it back against itself to grip itself. And it's kind of a pain. It doesn't really want to grip the plastic tubing very well, so you got to kind of work with it until it gets another piece of paper towel and wants to kind of hang in place. Now what the heat gun's doing, we're not actually completely drying the mache out and drying the glue and water out. All we're doing is drying it up enough that it holds its shape. That way when we stand it up, it doesn't pull away from the ribs and you don't lose that dip on the inside. So don't be mistaken and think that using the heat gun you're going to completely cure this and dry it. You're not. We're just drying it enough to keep it shaped so we can move on to the next step. Now when we cover the forearm here, we're going to wrap this all the way around. But what I want to do is when I lay this in here, I'm going to push in down in here so we get some depth in here, and we kind of keep this shape where you can see these two bones that are separated on this lower arm. And then this piece is coming down to the wood. Leave it, don't cut it off, just smash it down kind of flat. We're just machining it straight to it. I mean, when this goes out in the yard, we're going to throw leaves and things over the base of this anyway, so you can't see this piece of wood. Before I set this off to dry for the night, we're going to add, if you went with one of these skulls like what I got, just a mache skull, we're going to put some paper towel across the bottom of the jawline here and across here. That way this will give us something to attach to later in the next step when we create this crazy kind of veiny, muscly looking tore up neck. So we need something in here to adhere to, so we're going to put some paper towel and some skin right here just so we've got something we can attach to. Okay, wait. We got to stop right here for just 1 minute because I forgot to tell you something that's pretty vital and important, especially if you're going to put this thing outside and it's going to endure any kind of weather at all, because sealing is very important. If you make your mouth and it's this close together and you're using a paper mache skull, you need to seal the inside of this first. So actually, what would have been the best way for me to have done this, and for you guys to do it if you do a mouth this close together, before before we ever attach this jaw on here, you should go ahead and lay the mache here on the bottom part of the jaw and the back side of the jaw before the jaw is ever attached. Let that dry up and then seal the inside of it. Seal the bottom of the inside of the jaw and the bottom side of the skull with either an outdoor latex paint like this black paint is here, or a Valspar or something else. So before you ever attach that jaw, I would put these on here and then seal the inside of it, because you will, if it sets out in the weather, if you're going to have this outside and getting in the weather, you need to make sure everything is sealed, and sealed as good as you can get it. So before you ever put that on, I would seal those parts first and then put this together. That way you know and you're sure that everything inside this mouth is sealed up. Alright, so we got the first layer of skin completed all the way around on this guy. We're going to set him, let him dry up for 24 hours. And by the next day, 24 hours, you should be able to go on to the next step, which is going to be adding another layer of mache. So just make sure that once this dries up, you add another layer of mache on here. That way it's good and strong. And some of this that's directly on the PVC, you really don't need to add another layer, because the PVC is the structure underneath. It's nice and strong. But around this rib cage, I'd really focus on another layer of mache on this rib cage, and at least one more or two more on this jaw right here. But the big focus is rib cage. You want that nice and strong. Wow, that was a lot of information. That ran a little bit long. I originally planned on this to be just one tutorial covering the base skinning and then the detailing of this thing. Unfortunately, there's just too much information, so we're going to split this up into a two-piece tutorial. We'll call the next one either 2.5 or step 3. Once you have that base skin done, I recommend you guys take that thing out and seal it with either an exterior latex paint or spar urethane or Flex Seal, something like that. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial to finish up all the skin and the detail on this groundbreaker. See you then.
What you want?